The world needs you, and you need the world. So look around and find the things that bring you joy, that bring you hope, that leave you in awe, that give you a sense of beauty, that fill you with gratitude. An anchor is anything that's keeping you in the world. They can change often or they can be ongoing and everlasting. Like for me, my anchors are my husband, Dave, my children, Hunter and Logan, and revolving anchors of my life are usually the type of coffee I order in the morning, the incredible teammates that I get to do work with, and the beautiful California weather that we're lucky to have today. One of the most powerful stories that guide my work every day is the story of Marcus. I was in Las Vegas and I was being driven around to a couple meetings by an incredible young man named Marcus. To meet Marcus, you would just see he's full of light, the most outgoing person I've had the pleasure to meet. And Marcus and I spent a really incredible day together in Las Vegas, bopping around to different nonprofit organizations, planning for the launch back then of Lady Gaga's Las Vegas residency. On our last ride of the day, Marcus was taking me to a meeting on the Strip, and he asked me, just casually making conversation as people do, what plans I had that weekend. I lit up with the opportunity to talk about my children and my son's soccer game and my daughter's ballet practice. And I turned the question to him and I said, Marcus, what about you? What are you going to do this weekend? He was quiet for a little bit longer than he should have been. And I looked over at him and waited for a response and noticed that he was crying. He was gripping the steering wheel as we drove up the highway, and he was crying. He told me that he was going to spend that weekend making plans to take his life. He was having a really hard time at home, and he feared that he wasn't being the type of father or husband that his family deserved, and he'd made plans to take his life. We know from research that once a person makes a plan, it's really, really hard to unwind that plan. But I knew that my only goal that afternoon was to remind Marcus how loved he was and to urge him to please stay. I canceled my meeting, and in the parking lot of this big casino, we sat and we talked for 90 minutes. Luckily, I had a Find Your Anchor box in my purse, and I handed it to Marcus. This beautifully curated resource that Allie and the team at Find Your Anchor built reminded Marcus that there were many more than 52 reasons to live. I watched him put on the bracelet that said, "You are loved," and I watched him flip through the resources that made him feel like he was not alone. Marcus and I have matching anchor tattoos now. He is 2.5 years later, thriving, back with his family, supporting his daughters, and doing incredible work in the world. We never know when we'll have the opportunity to be an anchor for someone else. Being an anchor might mean putting a smile on a stranger's face, or it might mean saving a friend's life. And in both of those cases, it's an incredible privilege, an opportunity, and responsibility. And with the work and the resources of pleasestay.us, we can be ready for any and all of those opportunities. I encourage each one of us to think about how we can be kind today, to be kind to ourselves and to be kind to each other. In order to find resources to support your mental health, evidence-backed self-care tips, and suggestions on how to find your anchors, visit pleasestay.us.